The following is a clairvoyant consultation with a clairvoyant Douglas James Cottrell. Karen Cottrell is assisting and conducting the session. All rights are reserved. Copyrighted by Douglas and Karen Cottrell, December 2009. To contact Douglas or Karen in the 519 area code, please call 641-6300. Alternatively, you may write Post Office Box 423, Station B as in Bravo, in London, Ontario, and the postal code is N6A4W1. Email address info@douglasjamescottrell.com. The website is www.douglasjamescottrell.com. All information on this recording is of a highly personal and of a private nature. If you are listening to this recording without permission or authority to do so, you must immediately turn off the player and return the recording to the above address. Failure to do so may be viewed as a breach of privacy by any and all parties concerned. Now immediately turn off the player and return the recording. Thank you. All information on this recording has been obtained through the use of intuitive or psychic sources. The source should not be considered a medical or financial authority. The information is offered for its informational value only, and it should be used in a reasonable and practical manner. We'll begin in a moment.
Please clear the mind and inform us when the mind is clear.
The mind is clear.
Dear Lord, please protect this entity from all negative influences regardless of source, and give us the information we seek of this inquiring mind through the manifestation of truth, intelligence, and love. Amen. Which please allow your mind to go to whom, to where, to what, and to when it is directed. Please locate conductor Karen Cottrell.
Yes, we have it found.
Is all well with the form at the present time?
All's well and it's relaxed.
Please locate the form of Nason Schooler at
Yes, we have the entity.
Thank you.
Edgar Cayce, reading 440-5, states, "Through the same form of fire, the bodies of individuals were regenerated. By the burning, through the application of the rays from the stone, the influences that brought destructive forces to an animal organism. Hence the body rejuvenated itself often." Is this passage describing a solar-pumped infrared laser?
As we would examine this particular inquiry, it would be to understand that this would affect the cell level, in which there would be indeed some rejuvenation of the vibrational rate, as that would be at the center of the cell or the nucleus itself. The vibrations would be similar to that would be in the infrared or red, but here it would be a broad spectrum of vibration, as you would call it. Delawarr's work, you'll say. Let us examine this further. Give us the name again of the device.
It was called the Firestone, or the Tuawi Stone, the Great Crystal.
This would be in harmony with that, as you would expect. It would be as to the influence at the cell level as we have given. We now have the pattern of this device. The inquiry would be that this would have the ability to influence the cell and cause the cell to be rejuvenated. This would be correct direction.
First of all, Delawarr, I've been trying to find. Can you spell the name Delawarr?
It would be with the D, then the E, and then the W-O-R-L.
Delawarr.
Indeed. The conductor may show you the book later.
Thank you. How may we detect this rate of vibration in the nucleus of the cell?
It is a vibration that is different in various cells. One who would have a study of pathology, and one who would have the ability to determine frequencies, and then a conductor, or what would be an implement between the two, would need to be, let us say, sensitive to this vibration. Realizing the organs in the body have a different frequency than, let us say, the skin or the bone. But here we would find such capability to determine the frequencies is at hand and can be determined even now. It is a resonance or the similarity of frequency that you are attempting to seek. For as you would find this frequency, you would be, as you would expect and have examined, that there could be a rejuvenation at the cell for those cells that would be fading or would be ill or in distress. And for those cells that would be overactive or outrageous in their growth, it would have a dampening or cooling effect. The resonance between the same is such that the skills from several individuals would be necessary to determine the frequency. Now there is some generalization of frequencies, and there is a wide, broad band as to broadcasting of frequencies. Through computers and isolation of frequencies, there can be determination of a single vibration of a single cell at the cell level. This is at hand as we see it, or can be found or utilized. But it would take the skill of at least 3, perhaps 4 individuals who would have different skills coming together for this regard. But yes, this will occur. For each has its own vibration, and what you are looking at is the subatomic world to some degree, but it also is the broadcasting of this retina or filament. And this is the part in the cell that needs to be examined, you'll say. It can be stimulated by light or by sound, but the frequency would have its unique and singular vibration, and isolating it may be a little difficult unless there is someone with pathology and with some experience in the use of frequencies at the microscopic level direction.
Is the retina of the cell the centriole?
As of the same.
And this is the same as the filament you described?
As of the same.
Interesting. So the filament is not part of the cytoskeleton.
It would be similar, but of the same. We are looking at this as a wire between 2 poles, you might say, direction.
Would those 2 poles be the 2 centrioles within the centrosome?
As of the same, yes.
And they're connected by a wire, a filament.
The vibrational essence, yes.
Interesting. Has any work been done in this area to discover this filament?
Some, but more to the reaction as to the effect rather than to the isolation of the same. Therefore, the answer would be not specifically. But here, through resonance or impedance device, the Edgar Cayce jar of gold or iodine, these have the effects in these impedance devices or these cell devices. They are attempting to take the vibration and place it into the cell. Now, how this is done through the nervous system or circulatory systems of the body, the lines of communication, as you would call them, through the meridians, through the chi, this is all the carrier or the effect of the influence in the body. And attempting to discern, isolate, do not see much work on this, but they do seem to be considerable efforts in applying these to the body so that there is a effect or result, you'll say, an improvement. However, as you continue to examine this, you will come closer and closer, more than others have, in isolating this, as we see it, direction.
Is that the best course of action for me to take at this time to learn how to detect this rate of vibration and to affect it?
In what regard do you mean the best course for the self?
I have several choices. I'm doing work with the profound relaxation table, and I'm also doing work with the lasers destroying pigments. So I'm trying to decide which area to focus.
Indeed. This that you would ultimately discover or come to some understanding will take the efforts of other individuals in a combined effort. We therefore would suggest that the self can, let us say, engage in individually for the profitability or prosperity of self, be a little at the forefront with the understanding your attempt to affect the cell level. That there would be the destruction of tumors, that there would be the reconstruction of bone, or the super application of healing. And this would take a little time. Therefore, it depends on how vast thy monies would be, you'll say. Direction.
The profound relaxation table, as described by Paul Solomon, was a table designed to translate vibrations of music through the body for the purposes of healing. I've attempted to construct such a table myself. It's currently at my residence and I used it only yesterday to treat my mother. Is my design an effective design to implement the profound relaxation therapy as described in the Paul Solomon readings?
In a general way, we would find this affirmative. You will find that as you will progress, there will be similar or tweaking, or as you would discover the body's resonance, duration, application of time and location in the body, these mechanics or processes, let us say steps, this would be an art, and you will discover this yourself as to the application. But in a general way, we see that, yes, you are thumbs up, so to speak, in the area of progressing this, and we will find that this could be quite profitable or productive. It needs a little announcement or, let us say, acknowledgement by other sources, but to the question, as we would examine this, is the affirmative, yes to the question.
Should I attempt to go into business with this table at this time?
A little further testimonials, as we see it, having others who would market this for the self, or who those would have the capability to produce it in large scale, you could coordinate these individuals And rather than take on the business aspects of manufacturing and selling, I'll say, we would suggest this be perhaps taken to others who would have the skills and abilities to market or mass produce. But as to the question, it says of merit itself, and there would be good interest in this as we see it. Direction.
It was mentioned that by this source and Paul Solomon that sound could affect the rate of vibration in the body and the cells, and in so doing could enhance longevity, could extend life. My question is, how great of a lifespan extension should we expect using this PRE table to induce profound relaxation and relieve microscopic tension within the body? And then how much extra lifespan extension should we expect by increasing or restoring the youthful rate of vibration of cells and tissues?
Indeed, taking into consideration the person's environment, their diet, and what would be their attitude or their mindset, assuming that there is a measuring or mean balance, 10 times the age of their entering into puberty would be their expected normal lifespan. If they would be 13, it would be 130. If it would be 16, it would be 160. This would be the expectation of a normal lifespan. If there can be improvement in these other areas, it would tend to rob one of their normal lifespan, and there would be the introduction of that you are proposing, then you could easily see the lifespan in a normal sense exceeding 120 years in a general way. It could be exceeded to 170 years with those who would have, let us say, a good frame of mind and a good and lifelong determination of health. There are those who wear their bodies away. There are those who discard the body and care less for its physical maintenance. There are still others who hold, let us say, disease in the mind, and then it of course comes into the body, ever bearing in mind that the emotions are both the constructive and destructive forces in the body, appealing to these other aspects as well as the application of devices that are in accord with light and sound or frequency or vibration. Then you would find that easily the lifespan can be expanded or prolonged, but it does take a lifelong effort, you'll say. These would be the normal times. Is it possible to live 2 centuries? On the outside, at this point in time, giving the atmospherical conditions and the vibration of the earth itself, while it would be possible or probable 200 years could be reached. But this would be depending on other conditions, not simply this frame of removing those microscopic diseases or diseasements in the body. But you're on the right track. This will lead to other influences of cold therapies, sweat therapies, or fever baths, and remove those microscopic invasions in the body that would hide out in the body as to bacteria and viral conditions, for they cannot stand to exist in a host body that is slightly more alkaline than acidic. Eliminations in the body would need to be enhanced or improved also, and of course assimilation and maintaining what is called the Peyer's patch in the intestine to its optimum usage. These factors would indicate longevity in a healthful, physically, mentally, emotional way, you'll say, ever bearing in mind the influences of the soul as well. Direction.
Were lifespans in Atlantis and in ancient Egypt extended by thousands of years?
Was and could be, yes.
Is there a reason we cannot do the same today?
Several reasons. There is first, of course, the environment in which this industrial world lives in. There is not the ability to move things through the air. Gravity and anti-gravity mechanisms, although those pyramids and temples you would find laced with mica on the bottom or foundation would be the generators of such. These are not utilized at this point in time, and as such the entire world is poisoning its atmospheric conditions. And of course, at those times there was the understanding of nature itself. Not that this understanding was like scientific usages in present form, to understand nature so there can be the use of it at the will of humans, but rather there was the understanding of nature to be in harmony with nature. In this harmony there would be a fulfillment, and the extending of life would be done with many, not with simply one or two. There was more of an intention and a desire, and also there was the ability to communicate with the higher dimensions, so that more work, effort, enlightenment, or what would be considered activities and purpose would be accomplished. There was the will to live longer, you'll say. There was the environment that would provide this, and those dietary means were more in harmony with the nature of the person, rather than that would be the advertisements proclaiming what is beneficial or not. The embodied correction, the physical form or body did not lose the ability to assimilate, and those organs that would be vital to the body, the Peyer's patch, the liver, the spleen, and that of the influences of the pineal and pituitary, as well as the thalamus or hypothalamus, the controlling center for any body, these would be more in control of the voluntary rather than involuntary functions of the body. Quite frankly, humans then were more advanced in their, let us say, capability of managing their own form, internally and externally, I shall say. These would be but crude examples of the reasons here. There were, of course, many others. Direction.
My next question is about my research with. It's currently located in California.
Please locate this.
Yes, we have the place.
Is my research with the lasers and laser destruction of lipofuscin in the worms, is that productive research, and is it useful, or am I wasting my time, so to speak?
You are bordering on that. It would be the next, let us call it here, field of endeavor. For humans, as you know, humans are now peering into the microscopic world and are attempting to understand the activities at the atomic level, or that at the cell level more exactly. While we would find this as crude exemplification, or that it would be experimentation by chance we would find that you are nearing or coming to some comprehension of this. While we would not find conclusive invention, we do find your abilities here in this regard would be helpful. Not a waste of time, as you would put it, but here to be productive in this regard, to have a goal or specific purpose. There would need to be some adaptation, the utilization of what takes place in the assimilative process, but also here to some degree heat or temperature, especially the difference between high heat and low or cold temperatures, and what activities take place in the broadcast of light, you'll say. We cannot answer this in a qualifying way to say you are wasting your time, but we find that the parameters of your research are fairly wide, and therefore the focus might not be specific to find conclusive evidence of your endeavors, you'll say. Direction.
So, is lipofuscin a key factor in the aging process, as we hypothesize?
Yeah, consulting with other minds here would be in agreement with this. The answer would be affirmative.
Yet this was not the primary use of the firestone in Atlantis, to remove this aging pigment, lipofuscin?
It would be considered part of the entire process. What you are attempting to have us examine is not a single activity, I'll say. Let us put it that way. Direction.
Can I achieve a significant lifespan extension in the worms using this method?
Again, there seems to be agreement with those minds to whom we have been sent. The answer would be affirmative. Direction.
Can you describe some optimal parameters, such as the optimal wavelength of light to use, the optimal pulse duration, and optimal energy levels?
This would be an intrusion upon your welfare. We would allow this, that it would be part of the record of self here. Not that it would be denied, but that it is not for us to give forth. Direction.
Should I consider going to work in Seattle with, he is the dermatologist, the chief laser dermatologist at, and
You have this one, yes, the question.
would it be productive for me to go there and work with him and use the different devices he has?
As we examine the two, we would find some agreement could be done. If there is remuneration or compensation that is satisfactory for the self, this would seem to be productive in that regard. Then we would find a relationship that could last some time before the two would go in different directions, and it would be considered mutually productive. If this is the question itself, we could find it in this regard being helpful. Direction.
Is there sufficient time, considering the coming Earth changes, to work in Washington?
As we have given, it would be a time in which the selves would be productive. In this regard, it would be advantageous for the self and as we would examine the changes in the world that would affect, you will not be in any regard in danger as we see it, no matter where you would be located. You will have a tendency not to be present when there would be shaking and quaking of the earth, you'll see. As has been in the past, so should this carry forth. We do not find you in any danger, you'll say. Direction.
Should I begin a fellowship group to study the works of Paul Solomon, Edgar Cayce, Ross Peterson, Douglas Cottrell, and even Andrew Jackson Davis? Should I begin a fellowship group to study and teach about these readings?
Seems you already have. The answer is to the affirmative, yes. Well, none of these will last forever as to their physical forms, for some have already made the transition. As to that, it would be appropriate. Yes, this would be. We find many minds looking for thirsting for the continuity, and indeed the continuity is still at hand, as you would be that one to show the similarities. This would be pleasing to all, for here it has always been that none are special, none are individual, but this would be as to a normal advancement in human consciousness, and also that of the availability for information or knowledge from the beyond is obtainable, and is obtainable readily for those who would be wishful or desirous of this, you'll say. Continue with that you have. Understand you must bring others together who would share in this work or this purpose or this goal. And as there would be like-minded individuals who would work in accord, then there could be advancement into the various endeavors, you'll say. To the question, yes, this would be a suitable and worthy cause, for here you will discover the same simple truths. These can be given or shared, as they always have been, you'll say. Direction.
Can you tell me the most effective way of reaching people with this information? Should I start a small group locally in the Des Moines area and maybe perhaps teach in a few surrounding churches, or should I focus on international tours or something else?
All great things start with a seed. The mighty oak starts with the acorn. The seed of knowledge blossoms as other minds become, let us say, intrigued with what is being offered. As you would do this yourself, in all your researches, in all your understandings, remember, an inventive mind continues to be inventive. But each invention needs to be like one block in the foundation of the wall. Have a theme and carry the theme forward. And there will be many other individuals who would share similar interest, but in different veins of this theme, and yet they would all go in the same direction. You have the ability to speak of those things in a meaningful way. Your presentation will be different or altered, but your sincerity and enthusiasm is already being appreciated and noticed beyond what you would already have begun or would consider. We would suggest that you have in mind a larger audience, and we see that you already and do intend to appeal to this larger audience. But as you would keep those steps or those similarities, then teaching these, preaching these, this could be part of your destiny or purpose. No man can say this or that must be done, for each chooses that they will choose on their own responsibility or authority. The carrying out of this, attempting to prepare minds for times of extremes, this seems to be a very worthy cause. And as you would be that one who would wish to do the same, then indeed we would find a larger stage would be appropriate. But begin with a group. Begin with taking this message, or what this might be considered discovery of similarities, and then approach not the groups themselves, but individuals who would have similar knowledge or would have similar questions. If there would be 1 million people who would have possible interests in similar things, then it would make sense on the statistics or the numbers itself that at least 10% or 100,000 people would be very, very interested in listening to what you had to say. You do have the ability to present. You are pure in the heart for your intentions, and you do care about those whom you will be talking about. You do have respect and courtesy for their contributions. Therefore, this seems to be all that is necessary for success, and to alleviate some of the curiosities, some of the uncertainties, and to give certain direction for those who would be wanting or in need of such, that they may take this forward, prove it even to themselves to be evidence of truth. And this will build a success, and more would like to hear what else you have to say, what other similarities, what other directions the human mind can go into, you'll say. This would not necessarily be a religious perspective, but it would be to those minds who would share in the similarity, spiritually speaking, of the truth, of the evidence of the truth, and of that of being able to use, prove, if you will, to themselves the consistency of what you have to say. Therefore, if this is a map or if a manner, it is to plant the seed, allow it to sprout, but through the hearts and minds of others, they will lead you to larger groups, as we see. But this will not take long. It is short order. We find your ability to speak, and speak convincingly, would be well received. Direction.
What would be the best way for me to find these people of like mind to work with at the beginning?
It would be first to come up with some rules, or let us say ideas or themes as we have given. Then to simply go to various places and begin to speak, or to suggest this is what you think the world needs now, and that you are looking for others who support you. Within very short order, there should be similar people who would think you have something worthwhile. Tarry not, the forces are behind you here, and this timing would be now. Wherever there would be groups of people who would wish a speaker, or wherever there would be groups of individuals who would wish to listen to what you have to say, if you would find that breaking down the prejudice and the bias that exists between the groups would be part of your effort, Then you will find many groups who would wish to listen, you'll say. Make yourself available, and there are many who would seek you out rather than the other way around. Direction.
I'm thinking of starting with the Unity Church in Ames and Unity Church in Des Moines, and perhaps the Unitarian Universalist Fellowships in those cities. Would those be good places to begin?
They will. They would be of like-minded individuals, but understand your presentation needs to be one as far as education, never to be threatening to their organization, although they may perceive it as that. But here, as you would start, you are collecting individuals who would wish to, in their own way, examine what you have to say, or the knowledge or the wisdom that has been gathered, and how you can see through the various sources similarity. These would be the places to start, and branching out from that regard, others who would be similar in their own way. All who would profess to have some understanding of meditation, for instance. These types of groups, those who would appear to be spiritual in nature, who would claim to have some understanding of the spiritual dimensions or worlds beyond, these too will have some who would be interested. The group itself or the entity will not switch or accept you. He will be seen as someone who has an interest. And if you can thread your way through these, let us say here, differences or these different minds, not stepping on anyone's toes, but simply saying that there is availability of gathering information. This is how these individuals did it. This is where they spoke the same language or said the same things. This is how they managed to do it, in your opinion. Many will listen, for you will have many intriguing and insightful stories. Out of these who would be interested, there will be some who will come and wish to volunteer. Choose them carefully. Look for their enthusiasm and their subordinates to yourself. But yes, these groups would be a place to start. The internet also is a good place to continue, and being very definite in what you are asking for, very definite in what you hope to accomplish. For here, your leadership in this regard would be received and appreciated for those who wish to follow. But understand, there may be a few who will criticize you, or who will accuse you for capitalizing on someone else's ability or achievement. It is a time to move forward, not to pay attention to these wags, so to speak, of direction.
I'm now at a juncture in my life where I'm considering staying in Iowa and beginning this movement we're discussing, or returning to the West Coast and continuing with aging research. Can you offer advice on which would be more important in benefiting humanity at this time?
Our advice would be, again, no man can say this or that must take place. Each possesses its own free will and free choice. However, where enthusiasm lies, and where you feel each morning enthusiastic for the day and for what you are attempting to achieve that day, this is always the best guide. It will always show you your inner way. You may ask or pray for the divine to come to you in a vision or dream. However, know that by virtue of having a desire to help humankind in your heart is the most important. The forces that are about the self will lead you to those, let us say, accomplishments or that work. as they have so far. The mind is inventive, it is curious, it also has a desire to be supportive and, indeed, to assist humans as you know humans. But always be practical. Take care of thyself. Make sure there is always prosperity in the form of sustenance, of monies, and of other aspects that would carry your own responsibilities forward. Then, as always, if you have a righteous idea, something that is going to help people, then there should be the appearance of people to help you carry it forward. If there is not, then you may be misspending your time. When there isn't a desire to be of service, then understand that through this service, the self should expect to be well paid. Give the best service that the self can give, and expect that there would be fair compensation. And indeed, hand in hand, there would be a desire, a goal, and an accomplishment with that of being able to give more service. For the more service you give, the best that you can give, then people appreciate it and would demonstrate their appreciation through their remuneration or compensation. This in itself is confirmation or evidence that you are indeed being of service and will be successful. Therefore, the advice is look for enthusiasm. Look for those who have needs and fill the need. Have confidence in yourself, but also see that others desire what you have to say or what you are attempting to help or give to humans as you know humans. And you will be guided from above, for all righteous desires, plans, or projects do have their time and their place, and they do come into the world. You may have a tendency to be a little ahead of the world or a little ahead of yourself, being intuitive and inventive. Therefore, understand patience, and indeed, things have a way of appearing at the right time. As such, begin and have others assist you, which would be a fulfillment of what is already taking place as we see it. Direction.
Can you name any individuals I should seek out to work with?
We have many hands reaching out towards you. We do not have names attached to them other than Phil or Bill or Susan. These are first names, which the vibration of the same is not pertinent. We have conditions. And here, vibration of name is of the earthly dimension itself. It is irrelevant here from our association with other minds. We would not have specific individuals that you would need to seek out, but rather others who look to be seeking you out, you'll say. Reversing the trend here. We see about 12 hands reaching towards you at this point in time. Direction.
So far, I've found the following true channels for the source, capable of deep trance meditation: Edgar Cayce, Paul Solomon, Ross Peterson, Douglas Cottrell, and perhaps Andrew Jackson Davis in some of his works. Can you comment on whether any of these are not clear channels?
It is the evidence of what they say, it is the longevity of their activity, and it is the ring of truth to yourself that is important, to decipher their ability to attach to the higher realms above. This would be our comment as to how to discern those that would be, let us say, genuine. Usually they are simple in their nature. Usually there is and has been in their past a legacy because of their service, their ability. A clear channel is one who is somewhat clear of heart and works for humankind. The reason you have found these to be meaningful is because the self is of the same pattern, the same capability, you'll see. The comment is such: look to what they have done, why they have done it, and why they continue to do it under severe circumstances, criticisms, rejection. None did it for fame. Their life were filled of difficulty, as all who would be considered modern-day prophets were filled with the same controversy as those who would be old prophets, you'll say, in times past. Judge them on what they have accomplished, not necessarily their personalities. The clarity is always not complete, for each seeks that to understand the light, but from a different perspective. No one can see the sun from 360 degrees. They can perceive it from one side only at a time. And if they think from three-dimensional aspects, then they can perceive it as a sphere, looking at one half of a sphere at one time, rather than a disk, you'll say. And those that have the ability to seek can see the sphere on both sides at the same time, as well as top and bottom. See? This is clarity, direction.
Do I have the capability of developing the ability to channel in this manner?
We have just given this, yes, to the question. It is why you find it impressive or meaningful. There will always be doubt, but as you take your steps and as you persist, you will find that there would be those, let us say, experiences that will allow you to peer into the great beyond. Yes to the question. Direction.
Are there other similar clear channels for the source with written works that we can find in existence today?
You may find some in the Orient, although they would be cloistered away. You may find some in the Mormon Church. You may find some in Jehovah, and certainly in Europe, in Poland and Russia. Yes, there exist these minds, you'll say. We not have their names, but only their mind, as we would see these points. And there are others coming along as well. For understand, it is not that they have something that is unobtainable only by chance. It is those who have entered into the world on several occasions, who have taken on the Christ consciousness itself, who are envious, perhaps, of great souls, and who in their own heart wish to be contributing to the world as it is seen. And there are those great souls that come ultimately at times in which the world needs to shift or change. All have their order, all have their participation. This is in the time in which Capricorn, Pluto, and the ox year come together every 250 years. There is a leading up to this time of elevation, and those that are in the world come before these times. Then they fade away for a while and return within the 108th-year cycle, prior to the next 250-year term, you'll say. However, to the question, yes, you may find them out, you may seek them out. We find you will come closer and closer to your own destiny, direction.
Can you give me any advice on good ways to locate these people?
The internet would seem to have stories of individuals who would have the ability to predict the future. Begin with that. For any who can predict the future in humble ways would begin to show you or to flag them, so to speak. Then look to see if they have other abilities. And as they are multi-talented in different ways, which you would call psychic or spiritual, then you would be able to see that they have, and have for some time, assisted others with their knowledge and wisdom. There is some record of these individuals in their participation. They will make themselves known as it is time to do so. How did you find these other sources, you'll say? Look back to look forward. Let your intuition discover them. But all that is taking place is evidence of your own ability. For you have the same pattern, and those minds that are of the same, do they not come together? Are they not in the same accord? Do they not reach out and touch one another? The mind of Douglas has been in contact with the minds of Peterson, Solomon, and of Cayce, as he drew near to understanding. Reach out with your own mind. Be guided from above, and there will be no difficulty, no distancing of time or space. But when you ask the question, you limit the mind. When you perceive to find more, you will. However, for what purpose or reason would be the question here? Then, as you answer this, it will always come back to yourself to determine specifically what it is you are attempting to discover. And indeed, now is the time. But be patient. Take your steps. For in this life is but one breath in the life of the soul. If the soul lives forever, then there's no need to hurry. Time is getting short here. Direction.
Can you name a simple change I can make in my life that will enable me to enjoy life more?
The practice of gratitude. As you are aware, then as you become more aware, you become aware of the practice of gratitude, and you become grateful for every breath you take, every experience that happens, and most importantly, with this gratitude, you become aware of just how important you are, but more importantly, how it is important to have, in a moment, peace and enthusiasm for the moment at the same time. This is not requiring hours of meditation or contemplation or serious changes in your life. It is to become childlike with the moment of enthusiasm and the moment of truly being grateful. These simple changes resolve into a point of simply being content, ever realizing there are times to be serious, but no time to be solemn, ever realizing there are others that love you just for being yourself, and that if your purpose is divinely inspired, you'll get there sooner or later. Take your steps and enjoy your life along the way, as well as the destination. For there is no darkness, there is no night. On the plains that await your soul, reach out and reach your goal. There are many things you can accomplish. Attempt to have a singleness of purpose, and this will bring you great satisfaction. But enthusiasm is the compass point. Gratitude is that allows you to be gracious and to be accepting. What you truly are attempting to do is to understand the will of God Almighty, the order of the universe, and the understanding of yourself as a soul, that you might awaken, you might further yourself on the path of becoming a true human being, to become fully aware, to become self-realized, and then to become fully realized as a soul living in the human existence. Fear not. Direction.
In a past incarnation, did I have a romantic relationship with...
Best locate.
He doesn't know her address.
She lives in California. I don't know the exact address. But we were together when we were teenagers.
Give us the name again. Yes, we have the pattern of the entity through the records of your own mind. The question again.
Did we have a romantic relationship in a previous lifetime?
You could call this romantic, but it was more into that of bondage or slavery, in which the entity was very graceful and beautiful in her appearance. This would be in the land of the Armenian itself, and we would find the self being very strong, forceful, and quite, let us say, courageous as a warrior. The two seemed to have a hot relationship, but there was one always that the self had a temper, and here was quite willing to use weapons to solve contests or arguments, and indeed many feared your temper. She had the ability to calm the self, or at least to distract the self, when there was much desire for her. The two seemed to engage in a very, call it here, exciting time. She was always teasing and always tempting, but knew her place, else she would have lost her life. And therefore there was attraction to the self, and yet there was fear of the self. And indeed the self was unpredictable. We would find also in the Egyptian, where the two were together then, the self in a state of, let us say, aristocratic, yes, social advancement, and she would be quite intellectual and indeed had ability or sway over the self, gently guiding the self to higher and higher levels of political advancement, and indeed in the court or in the ruling classes, the two made quite a team in which together they advanced through levels of society, riches or prosperity, as well as political authority became theirs. And through the years even, there was a constant association one with the other. There was always resentment on her part that the self was moving forward because of gender. And there was always a little resentment in your heart that she seemed to be quite a strategist and even more intelligent than the self when it came to politics, you'll say. Therefore, there was a need for each other, and this need seemed to last for a period of time that would be quite long, but never until the end a sort of comfort. Always a little feistiness between the two, and need for each other. In this life, it would be seen that this resonance would cause the two to separate, even though there would have been some touching upon one another in the beginning. In the violent lifetime, it would be seen that there would be some finishing or some satisfaction of this time, in which she would be self-supportive and would be able to move away or to, let us say, have a degree of independence from yourself. We would find similarities or resonance from these existence in the record at this point in time. And there are other experiences in the Orient in which this one would be as to a geisha, highly trained in social class. The self would be somewhat as to a warlord in a small village. And here she often entertained the self, you'll say, but for her counsel and for her understanding of commodities, gold in particular, there was respect, and the self remunerated her very quietly with small nuggets of gold, but there was never any formal partnership, only that it would be seen as proper. But indeed there was great affection for her by the self, as then. Yet there was a mutual understanding of business and status, you'll say, and there was mutual respect. But very independently, the woman built up her wealth and then moved to the north, to the disappointment of self. But it was business, and it was best. And the woman became a member of a large clan, you'll say. Yes, these lifetimes resonate. There would be considered intense closeness. There would be seen times in which there was fear, there was admiration, there was political advancement one with the other. We trust this has been helpful or meaningful to the question. And now the body should be awakened, for it is becoming deplete.
Thank you. Please remove all negative influences from this entity now.
It is.
Allow any healing which may take place to take place now.
It is.
Begin raising the body temperature and blood pressure to normal gradually now.
It is.
Please awaken refreshed and relaxed.